Hello. During this presentation, I'm going to go through and walk through this repo that I have. It's called SpecKit Live Workshop. I had another video going through a presentation. This repo also contains the PowerPoint in case you wanted to have some place to go through and look at what I talked before. From here, we're going to actually go through this walkthrough here, facilitation. This is going to just go through and we're going to walk through these different commands, and I'm going to just explain more of what we're doing, what SpecKit does, and just give more context. From here, we're going to start with the first command, which is the specify init. That's going to generate all the code, everything that we need to proceed, and we're going to just run this in the very beginning. Here, I'm going to use Claude. I use Claude Code on this device. You can choose the different script type, word shell, PowerShell, Python. And after this is done, it's going to generate these skills. These are what we're going to use to continue the pipeline of SpecKit. And also it generates this documentation. The constitution is the most important in the very beginning. And we're going to have all these templates that are going to be built out as we run through the commands here. So the first one that I'm going to run through is the SpecKit constitution. With this command, I'm going to just define the principles that we want to run through. This constitution is where we will have the source of truth from every other implementation spec that we generate and create. So it's very important to think about what we want to always consider and focus on in the later implementations. Here I just have very basic simplicity first. We have the testable requirements, and we also have illustrative and not production. That means that this is just a demo, a test. This isn't going to use a database. This isn't going to be deployed. This is just an example that we can just see and use for this repo. It's a learning practice. So from here, it's going to go through and generate the actual constitution here. It's going to go through this file. It's going to not explain, but it's going to define those principles that we had up here, but it's also going to generate additional notes and information. It's really important to look back and check on every single file that's being generated, every single file that's being edited. That way we can go back and make those changes as necessary. Here we created out the principles, simplicity first, testable requirements, illustrative, not production. And here, these additional ones were created as it ran through and looked at the README. From here, if my repo was completely clean, I think it would just generate from these requirements. Next, we're going to go through this next command. And here, this is a command that we're going to run constantly. And this is the specify. So this is the actual implementation or feature that we want to create. For example, we're just going to build out a URL shortener. This can be as general, it doesn't have to be this specific. I talked about the in-memory storage, user accounts. We can make sure that this is maybe a little bit more high level. From here, it's going to look at this template. And what's going to happen is it's going to generate another directory. We have this directory here, the specs. And every time the specify is run, it's going to generate another folder and directory with all of these different files. It's created this specify and requirements markdown. From here, we can look through and just make sure that the specs are created correctly. It does generate a lot of this information, like the steps and scenarios, edge cases, and these different outcomes and assumptions. This is definitely something that we can just look through, edit, and correct in case anything needs to be removed or anything needs to be added. The next step after this is a SpecKit plan. And this is basically what we want to define the technical technical requirements or technical constraints, things like that that we want to consider when we're working on this implementation here. The plan may include the storage or the dependencies, the libraries, the language, but it doesn't necessarily need that. Here I just defined it needs to use Node.js and Express. However, if you look at the example under the repos that I had, it doesn't have to be this specific. It could just be something like we talk about the storage. Here we're talking about no authentication. The arguments or the way that we want to define here would be just technical, but it doesn't have to be that specific as well. So once I run through this, it's going to generate that plan here. From the plan, it's going to define the language that we use. Oh, and also it's important to see that from the plan, it's going to go back, look at the Constitution, and it will make sure that it does this check. Does it pass? Does it fail? And it's matching between what was specified and what we will build out here. This is where the stop is to go back and check to the Constitution. Here we're defining the technical constraints that we had before. This is an important part to look at too. Those principles were defined and we have the pass or fail. These are all passing. It will have these other markdowns created too to kind of explain why it was passing or failing. Like here, we have the research markdown created. We have the data model here created, defining the entities and the states that we have in our application. And from here, it's a good point of reference before we proceed to the tasks. Those tasks then, for the top three, we're going to write out what we want. We're writing out, we don't need to do this every time, but this is writing out the principles that we had. Here we have the specific feature or thing we want to build out or work on. And here we have that technical plan or constraints or requirements that we have for this specific implementation here. Running SpecKit task. And the last one, implement, does not require any arguments or anything we need to write out. But SpecKit task will generate a new markdown as well. This markdown is going to follow this template. And the markdown that is generated is just a checklist. It's going to go top down and explain how it's going to work on that implementation. That means what's the plan, how we're going to set it up, what do we need to do, what kind of routing we need to generate, and has this in specific parts. Like here, we have the specific project structure that we need. We need to have the memory taken care of. We have that the user stories here that we have other than what we had in those phases of setting up the foundational one. And we have the priority defined here as well. This is a P1, it's most important. And then from there, we can also see the dependencies. And now we can go into the last phase, which is implement, which will go ahead, create the code, do everything from these tasks and execute it as the checklist from top down. From this demo and workshop, I'm showcasing a single user on a very basic feature implementation. Oh, and first I'll just run this SpecKit implement. That'll be the first and final thing. Oh, I already ran it. SpecKit implement that we have here. We're just running in the background. And we want to look at, if you want to look at another repo that has a more finished demo, I have this one here. This is the same, but it has the development comparing vibe coding with spec-driven development, and it will have a single user. It'll have more documentation to kind of follow through, explain a lot more. And we also have this documentation here, or demo that we have here. That's going to be a little bit more complicated, but this is going to be using SpecKit at a team scale with multiple users. The only document I want to go through is this sample session here. And let me just see if there's anything else I need to do here. So thinking about a single application, multiple users, multiple features, just following along, we already have that specify init. The spec kit's already been installed. The constitutional has been generated. After that, we're typically going to just run through this flow of using SpecKit specify, SpecKit plan, SpecKit tasks, and SpecKit implement. So as before, we have the requirement or the feature that we want to add to our application. We have this technical plan, and then we run through and implement it. And this is nice because it does create that folder again, so it creates this point of reference. It creates documentation that we can follow along to see how this was implemented. Same thing with this user. They're trying to implement the task carry these tags. This user doesn't really have any requirements as well, if we note that. So you don't have to have specific technical requirements. The plan will go through and check the constitution. So this one passes here. It'll go through the tasks and go through implement. If there's a bug or some other issue, SpecKit is mainly, I think the use is more for implementation and features. Any other kind of changes like bugs or any issues that we have, we don't want to run through that. It's going to add unnecessary complexity. And last example we have here is for Jordan's story. He might want to add a principle to the constitution. And when we do this, since the constitution is a source of truth, if we add a principle, any other specify that we run after the fact will be checked against this new amendment, new change that we've added. That means that we don't want to add principles unless absolutely necessary, or adding them so we can make sure that any other future feature or implementation will follow that principle. And it follows through the same plan, tasks, and implement. And here, I'm going to just go through. This should generate. It's just going through the implementation plan. Let me see here. Looking through this. I'm going to just come back once this is all finished so I can just showcase the application. So just give me 1 second. Now this is all finished. We can finally just demo the application here. In the folder, let me just open this up here. Make sure it's all clear. This is going to run on this port. And from the terminal, you have here, it's running here. We're going to just do this curl command. It's going to generate the shortcode. And from here, we can just run this curl on this code that was generated here, and it's going to return the very long path here. That's all that I have for this demo. It's going to, you can follow along on this repo that I have here, the SpecKit on my repos here. It's the SpecKit live workshop. Hopefully this was all helpful. If this was helpful, if you can like, subscribe, it'll get me motivated to make more of these tutorials and videos. And if you have any other ideas on future videos or things you want to see covered, just let me know. But thank you so much. I hope you have a nice one.